Welcome to the Proclivity podcast. I'm your co-host, Emily, with the host, Joel Cochran.
Hey, what's happening, you guys? And welcome to a special edition of the Proclivity podcast. I am your host, Joel Cochran, and I'm here with my incredible co-host, Emily Rodella. Emily, tell everybody hi.
Hello, everyone, listeners and Proclivity community.
Yeah. We were deciding on whether Emily should start the Proclivity podcast introduction, and we gave it a go. And how'd it go?
Not well. Not a good idea.
So we decided to stick to the norm, although today is nothing like the norm. And that's because we are bidding a proclivity farewell to our lovely and incredible coach, Emily. Emily has made the decision to be able to go on to different passions, different studies, and to be able to invest more into herself and her family. And we're really excited for the next step in her journey. She's been an incredible piece and component of Proclivity. It is the DNA of who we are, is Emily. And we're going to take this podcast, you guys, to talk about our experiences as business partners and how Proclivity even came about, and talk about the highs, the lows, a little bit about on the decision of moving forward, and then just our reflections, our takeaways, and our closing remarks to you guys. For anybody here who is a longtime listener, has never met us, or maybe you're a family or a friend, we want to be able to give you this opportunity to create a little closure with this new change. And change can be hard for a lot of people. I know it has been for our team and myself and Emily. Yet closure is a very key component, you guys, of being able to heal. And so here we are, as authentic as we've always been, here to be able to create closure with you guys. So, Emily, let's create some closure, shall we?
Mm-hmm. Let's do it.
Okay. Let's start off first and foremost. And if you guys have been listening to us for a long time, we have a couple episodes of get to know Emily and Joel and our personalities and who we are. Yet let's talk about how this all began. And Emily, take it away from your point of view. How did Proclivity begin? What was the dream that we had with Proclivity? What was the spark? And what was really your decision to be like, yeah, I want to do this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was doing nutrition coaching on my own. Well, yeah, a little bit on my own with a different company before Proclivity. And even before that, I was a part-time CrossFit coach at the gym that Joel was managing. That's how we met. So I worked part-time coaching for him, as I also did nutrition coaching on the side. And so we met there. He knew about my passion for nutrition. And when I made the decision to do nutrition coaching full-time instead of also coaching, I told him, and he was super supportive and said, yeah, please go do what you're passionate about. And I did. And then 2020 hit.
Yep.
And and I would get phone calls from Joel of like, hey, I'm doing my own thing now. I'm doing fitness coaching and mindset coaching. And I have some questions for you on this client when it comes to nutrition. And so we would talk and chat about like, hey, this is what I would tell your client. Like,
Yeah,
this is a recommendation. And we did that a couple times as far as I remember. And then at one point, Joel's like, hey, would you be interested in doing my program just to see what you think about it? I don't know if that's exactly how you phrased it, but
sure.
that's how I remember
Yeah,
it.
that's a good thing. That's what matters.
And so I did. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is not what I expected. I thought this was going to be like a really broad, like, okay, what are your goals? Like maybe some fitness stuff in there. some foundational health stuff, and it was way more than that. And I thought to myself, holy moly, this is what all my clients need. This is like the missing piece, right? I was doing well as a nutrition coach, and there's a big piece to coaching that's like, hey, if I could tell you all the things to do, but if you can't figure out why you're not doing it, I can't help you.
Right.
And so Joel was that missing piece to the background of like the life coaching, the mindset of like, why aren't we doing the things we know we should be doing?
Mm-hmm.
Or what's holding us back? And so when I did his program, I was like, this is the missing component to the nutrition coaching that I would love to have.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talked about it. He invited me to say, hey, like, do you want to be business partners? I was like, oh man, that sounds scary. Like owning a business. I'm the type of person who is like, hey, tell me what to do, or like just keep things simple and I can do it. But
Right.
when it comes to owning a business, I'd never thought of doing that on my own.
Yeah.
But with Joel, I was like, with Joel's expertise in owning a business and his guidance and support, like, I think this will work. And again, this is what I know my clients need. So we decided to do it. And with the purpose of, hey, we're going to go into this and do a holistic, whole view of what a person actually needs from a coaching standpoint.
Right.
A lot of people are like, oh, I just want to learn about nutrition or get a meal plan or count macros. I just need nutrition and I'll do it. But we know as coaches from our experience, both of us, like, no, you need more than that, right?
Yeah.
You need the mindset, you need the life coaching aspect, whether you realize it or not. And so that's where we came from, of like, hey, we're going to get to the root cause physically and mentally and emotionally and help change people's lives. And then it began. And
that's how it began. This is interesting, guys, because I'm going to be asking Emily questions that are just popping into my head and just really reflecting with her. Tell me, like, you talked about starting a business. That was nerve-wracking. Was it exciting too? Did you have reserves of like, did the imposter come in where you're like, no, I don't know, you have to leave something that's stable in terms of, well, they just feed me clients and I have to go get clients. Tell me a little bit about that experience of right before you signed the papers with me of like, I'm gonna be your business partner.
Yeah, my biggest fear was we weren't going to, like, how are we going to get clients consistently to stay afloat in terms of financial, like, income? That was my biggest concern. Yeah, I expressed that to Joel and he goes, oh, that's the least of my worries. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And the confidence he had gave me confidence to go, hey, like, if he has that confidence, he's done this before, sure, let's do it. And I wasn't 100% happy at my current job in the company I was with and in the direction that was going. And so I was like, yeah, I do want something new. And it was a risk. I like asked my family members, I asked my husband, I was like, should I do this? I don't know. Like, there's a lot of unknowns here.
Yeah.
Yet you had a lot of confidence and you're like, I can help do the business side of things. Like, don't feel like this is something you need to do and figure out.
Right.
So again, that gave me all the confidence to be like, all right, let's try it. And if it doesn't work out, worst case scenario, I'll do something else.
Yeah. In worst case scenario. And you always have what a lot of people have said about you is your strength and how strong you are. And being able to show that strength and being able to have that confidence of, yeah, I'm going to land on my feet for sure. As we know that you are going to in your next journey and what you're going to get into. Let's touch on just one little thing before we move on to actually getting into the business. What was your vision? Like, obviously I had my vision, but is there a vision that you didn't share with me, or you thought it was going to be one way, but it ended up being some other way?
Yeah, I envisioned it would be the two of us doing like private coaching. I can't remember from the get-go if we decided to do the small group coaching in the very beginning or not. I mean, I think we did, but that I envision it just being us two and growing that way of doing more like intimate coaching, right? Yeah. We had discussed like, oh, do we like eventually expand this and do hire coaches to do, help get more to more people. And to me, I was like, oh, I don't know if that's doable. Like it's us two. Like, how do you replace like our coaching? Like that makes me nervous. If you've ever been in a job and you're like, oh, I have to train my replacement, like in this coaching job, it can be tough. Right. And if you guys have talked to Joel in terms of like a life coach, he's one of a kind. And so to me, I was like, I don't think that's an option.
That's so nice.
So, yeah, so I envision it is to grow in terms of like, hey, our goal is to get 6 people a month in our small group coaching, and we'll continue forward that way. I didn't truly like envision the events and all the things we started doing around it, which was cool. I'm if you know anything about me, I tend to be like introvert and like to work like it's tough for me in social settings. I get nervous, a little social anxiety sometimes. And so to put on all those other events and do a podcast and all this social media stuff, that was a big challenge for me. Yeah, with the repetition, I did gain a lot of confidence, and I'm glad you pushed me to do that.
Yeah. You coming in, Emily, and doing your standard kind of coaching. Remember how much time you would spend on just giving reviews?
Like my client feedback? Yeah. In my previous job, it'd be like one client check-in would be over an hour every week.
She was writing novels, y'all. Back to them.
Yeah. And looking back, I'm like, man, I gave way too much information, probably overwhelmed everyone. But I wanted to be so thorough in giving all the information. Yes. That's how my brain works. And so I learned how to simplify for not only my time's sake, but also for all you guys who are our clients.
Yeah.
Make it simpler.
Yeah. And we simplified things a lot, right? When we came in, we started building out the Proclivity method. Was that difficult for you in terms of being like, hey, we're going to give less and actually charge 5 times more than what you've been charging?
Very counterintuitive. I had a lot of resistance. And Joel's like, trust me. And I was like, okay. It's very weird. I felt like, well, I need to give him more to charge more. So that was how I originally thought. And now I'm like, oh no, what's the value I'm giving them and what is actually effective, right? So if I give someone too much information, that could be overwhelming. They may not take it all, right? Versus what is it they need, right? We always ask that question. Yeah. Some people are even if they tell me what they need, I'm like, yes, and maybe this or not that.
Yeah. What they want, right?
Yes.
Because we know what they actually need. And that was the special part of the Proclivity method. And what you and I built out was keeping it so simple. And Emily, what would you say when we do our recaps with people? What would you say is their biggest celebration or biggest change when it comes to the nutritional part?
When it comes to the nutritional part, a couple things. Aside from the specific habits of like, oh, I didn't know I needed that much protein. I didn't know I needed electrolytes. Those kinds of things. Those were big for people. And like, oh, the seed oils. I didn't even know that was a thing. Holy moly. Right. And so aside from those, people are like, oh, I didn't realize I didn't have to like track macros, or I didn't have to be so hard on myself.
Right.
And so when it comes to the nutrition side, they're like, oh, I was able to give myself grace and be like, oh, if I got a protein in, that was okay. And that was a win for the day or the meal. And looking at it differently than like, oh, what are the calories I need to get? Instead of like, oh, what are some foundational things I can get to get my 25%, my 50%, right? If you guys have listened to podcast episode number 117, it's our favorite when it comes to percentages and breaking that all or nothing mentality. So I think that, at least from my point of view, that is a big thing that people gained, of like a different shift on like how they view their nutrition. It's like, oh, it could be simpler than this.
And you nailed it. I mean, leave it to Emily, you guys, to expand on something and get deeper, because that's what she does, and she does it so dang well. But she does it with such a gentle, non-judgmental way of like, oh, I have all this information, but we're going to walk side by side. And that was what a lot of people told me, Emily, is that they knew how smart you were, but you always met them where they were at. There was never a hierarchy. It always felt like they were talking to like their friend, and a very smart friend. And that's the best part of being able to have a coach, is like, man, you can be my buddy, but you're also my guide, which is a beautiful part. Yet the simplistic thing is we did get a lot of times like, oh, I wasn't drinking water appropriately and eating enough protein. And we would watch bodies change just on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then to Emily's point, in terms of like seed oils and counting macros, you really didn't have to. You just had to do the simple, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
and you did a really good job of being able to do it. And I'm sure there was even times where it was like, can it be this easy or this simple? Was that a hard shift and change from like writing thesis in every single week to like eat protein? I feel like I need to give you more.
Yeah. So it went from like, okay, I hear these wants and needs from the client, from our people. And my initial reaction is like, oh, you can do this, 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 and this is why, and this is why, and this is why. Like I want to give all the information in my brain. It went from that to,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let me filter that. And what is like the foundational thing that you need? Like step one,
Mm-hmm.
what's action step number one?
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, also being a life coach of like a listener and filtering that information to go and like, I've seen this before. This is actually the best direction to go to start with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's you did an incredible job of being able to distill down and charge more and be okay with it. That's a big
Yeah.
transformational journey for a lot of business owners. You know, being a business coach, helping people increase their prices is like pulling teeth. And usually it's an identity thing. And you did a really good job of being able to identify and to be able to strengthen your identity of being able, like you said before, what's my value? What am I bringing to them that's going to be valuable to them? Because that's the most important thing. If anybody's listening right now who's a business owner, it's actually not about your product, your service, your building, or anything else. It's answering what that person feels like they need, and that's the most important part. And this is why in the proclivity method we ask so many questions so we can really understand. Oh, this is the biggest thing that's bothering you. If I can solve this one thing, no matter what it was, if I can solve this one thing for you, people go, it's completely worth the value. But we could give 1,000 different things. And if we never solve the one thing because we didn't ask enough questions, then we're actually giving less of a value, even if we gave more. And that I'm sure was a light bulb moment for you at some point.
Yeah, well, I don't think it would have happened if it weren't for your guidance and support and being like, no, like you have a lot of value. Having that outsider. So if anyone's out there who's in the same position of like people pleasing, like, oh, I don't know if I should charge enough. I don't know if I provide that much value. Get in out, like whether it be a friend, a coach, business coach,
Mm-hmm.
to see like what actually is going on.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that guidance from you of like, no, this is good. You can charge more. You can give less in a sense. And that was really helpful to push me in the direction
Mm-hmm.
of knowing like, no, you can do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, not only did you get through that, but you thrived, Emily, and
Thanks.
it's been a huge honor being able to be by your side, watching you move into this as a business owner. It's been amazing. All right, let's move into some real stuff here. Let's talk about business ownership, and you know how we do it. Give the bad news first, if we call it bad, right? But I want to hear from you. What was the biggest struggle points within running Proclivity? What was like the lowest lows that you felt at times running a business and going through Proclivity?
Mm-hmm. Two main things come to mind. One is the financial piece, the uncertainty
Mm-hmm.
of like, hey, are we going to get enough clients this month? Are we going to get enough income to get the amount of money I need to make to, feel financially stable at home? That was in the beginning, a constant worry. I got confidence as we moved forward. Yet, first year and a half, 2 years, I would say, it was on my mind quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a struggle, right? Any business owner will know that of like in the beginning, you're not really making money or very little, if any. So that was tough. Not only for me, but for my family of like the uncertainty.
Yeah.
It's just tough.
Yeah, it is big time.
To know like, okay, well, we'll be making money next month, the next year. Like how long is this going to be? Like what is this going to look like?
Mm-hmm.
And then two, the other difficult part for me was structure, right? So I know I'm not alone on this. I've had lots of clients say the same thing, and that when you're a business owner and you create your own structure, and if you're not used to that, it can be a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I tend to lose focus. I can get wrapped up in the typical entrepreneurial mindset of like, oh, I have this 100 to-do list of things. Let me just start knocking these things out. And I, at first it was tough for me to feel like I felt like I was productive because I was checking things off the list,
Mm-hmm.
but not like moving the needle in an effective way, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so Joel really helped me with my organization skills and giving me structure to my workday, because we have to create that. It's not like given to me
Right.
prior. If someone's like, hey, do all these things, this is what your job description is, I'm like, great, I'll do exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
But to go into be like, well, there isn't really structure, you have to create it. That was challenging.
Do you feel like that helped you going through that struggle in terms of moving forward?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yes, I feel a lot more confident to go, hey, like, okay, moving forward with whatever I do, I know I have a tool set to at least be organized, set up my calendar, and know like, hey, whatever my goal is and what I want to do, there's a certain time in the day of how to do it and what to prioritize and what to weed out.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. I mean, watching you go through that is um, was really, really cool, because I remember in the beginning it was super hard, and there was many times that we sat down and you were so mad and did not want to be there. Let's just be honest. You're like, I don't like this stuff, I don't want to do it, and you're talking to me about it and it feels overwhelming and my brain is shutting down, and get the freak out of my face.
I never said those
You didn't
words
say those
yet.
words. I just saw them on your eyeballs when I was looking at you.
Yeah, I definitely wear my heart on my sleeve when it comes to frustration. Yeah, Joel was very patient with me when it comes to organization, and he would come to me like, "Here, Emily, this is how you use Google Calendars. This is how you sync it to your phone. This is how Zoom works. This is how all the things."
Mm-hmm.
And if you're anything like me in terms of technology and feeling resistance and frustration, that like technology is like almost the most frustrating thing to me in the world.
This is true.
So when things don't go well, I feel like it takes way too long. I'm like, I don't have time for this.
Mm-hmm.
And I get very impatient.
Yes.
And so again, Joel came in with the patience and was like, let me show you the way.
Mm-hmm.
And it took time. And once I moved past the resistance, it did work.
Mm-hmm.
It did help.
Oh yeah, there was definitely times where I'm like, Emily, just slow down. Look right here. This button, this one button. Click right there. See how much easier
I see
that is?
I like see red when those things happen.
You do see red. You do. I know. That's why I had to like step really lightly, right? It's like
Yeah, you did
stepping
good.
into it like a dragon cave. I'm like, dude, don't. I know the dragon's there and it can breathe fire. And if y'all don't know, like y'all look at Emily and she's like, oh, she's the sweetest, nicest thing. Put her in front of some technology, and then be the one that has to come and be like, hey,
Yeah.
just to let you know, we can't read your notes on your phone. So I need you to just, instead of put it into notes, I just need you to click right here and put it into Slack or Google Drive. Just one other button. And
or Trello. There's so many apps.
And you be looking at me sideways like, what do you mean I have to press another button? I'm like, just one button, please. Don't kill me. Just this button right here.
I feel like I wasn't that aggressive. It was just
No, you weren't.
silent.
You weren't. I can see it in your literally entire face changes. Like when you're talking about you wear your frustration on your sleeve,
Yeah.
it's you cannot hide it. It is fully
True.
present. And so technology for sure. Let me ask you this. Is there one single moment in Proclivity that you were like, ugh, like whether something didn't roll right or go right, or an event, or is there something that, let's be honest, I mean, this is the last podcast. We got to put it all out there. We'll go to the client you like the least next.
Nothing big comes to mind. So a couple small things is, like I said, the event. I would dread events, honestly, because of the social anxiety of like, oh, I'm nervous to talk in front of everyone. it's, it's taking, like, there would be some mom guilt of like, it's taking me away from my family. Those were the big things. And yeah, once I was in the event and afterwards, I felt great. I was like, oh yes, like it's so good to see everyone. It's so good to do the event and do this service for people. Yet those were a struggle getting there. I was nervous 2 weeks before every time, no matter what it was, even just a simple ladies cold plunge. Like I get nervous before those things, but it's improving.
Yeah. Yeah. What's one thing that you would say that you're the proudest of going through this journey? It's one thing that you can go, man, I'm dang proud of myself for.
Oof. I'm proud of myself for doing those things that don't come naturally to me, like the events, like the organization and technology. And from the get-go, my husband's like, Emily, are you sure you should do this? Like, not like, you are a great, like, have great work ethic, yet I don't know, like, if you're the like entrepreneurial type in doing these things like all on your own without the structure. I'm like, yeah, you're right, and I'm still going to do it.
Good for you.
And so I'm proud of myself for that, in overcoming, like, facing the challenges head on.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. There was multiple challenges that you did, including, I remember when we did our first business account, and we had to present in front, and I said, hey, you're starting off with your story.
Oh yeah.
It was like, I didn't know if she was going to faint or not. It was,
oh my gosh,
in front of an entire boardroom of people who are all in business, attire. And we sitting there in front of everybody going like, breathe.
Yep. I did a lot of self-talk of, I know you may not like this term, Joel, but like the fake it till you make it.
Sure.
Initially, I really had to be like, the things that were going through my head. It's like, everyone starts somewhere. Like, these are all normal people in this room. Like, it's gonna be okay. And you talking me up beforehand of like, hey, you got this. You know the information more than anyone else in this room. Like,
That's right.
You got this. And so that the repetition helped, the self-talk, and then your support as well. But yeah, those were really tough for me.
What would you say are the three things about Proclivity that you loved the most?
It's hard to pinpoint. Like, when I think of Proclivity, and my like joy in it is like the group calls.
Right.
Because they're so wholesome in terms of like, we're giving education, we're supporting people, there's a community, and you're getting vulnerable with strangers, and you're getting the life coaching support that you need. Again, you might necessarily not know you need,
Right.
but you do.
Yeah. That's right.
And there's just so much out of the group calls, the Proclivity method that we ran, like showing up every week with other people and getting guidance from both you and I. And then I learned from people. I learned from you every call. I felt so grateful. Like, I felt like I was going through the Proclivity method over and over again as a client myself, getting to listen in on other people's stories and challenges, and you giving coaching advice. Like, I felt like I was getting a course for free every time. Even though I was one of the coaches.
we were getting reps in, for sure.
Oh yeah.
For sure. Like I said, the groups is one. What's another one that you loved about Proclivity? Maybe as you as a coach, or the community itself.
I mean, a big part was just the freedom to do what we wanted, right? Whether it be in my own coaching of like, oh, I have flexibility in my day. I have flexibility of how I want to coach. We could change things up. Like, for me in my head before, I was like, oh, I have to do this one certain way. And then you, in owning my own business, helped me see like, no, there's options here. You don't, even if you start off one way, you don't have to keep going that way. You can always pivot.
Yeah.
And so I learned a lot in that. And it was great to have that flexibility, mentally, structurally, and also as a mom and for my family. Like, that did help, of being like, oh, if I need to, I can cancel a call if my son's sick. On these days, if I'm going out of town, we can shift things around. Or if I need to pick up my son from school, I can schedule things differently. That was a big one. And then lastly, our team and community.
Sure.
We built a really great team.
Yeah.
Shelby, Austin, Gia, superstar of humans and people, of just really heartfelt, genuine people.
Yeah.
And so that's first and foremost, like super, super grateful for them and you, of
Mm-hmm.
course, in your coaching. I see you as a huge mentor,
Mm-hmm.
friend,
Mm-hmm.
guide. I learned a ton business wise, life wise, all the things. And then again, our community, whether it be you in a coaching group or showing up to an alumni call or
Mm-hmm.
seeing people at events or hearing about people listening to our podcast,
Yeah.
like that brought me so much joy of like, oh, I listened to that podcast. It was so helpful. I really connected with you. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like that warmed my heart a lot. And just being able to bring a community to people.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are beautiful moments, Emily. And I agree with you. Those are some of my favorite moments of proclivity. And one of my favorite moments, guys, to share with Emily was the first time that she met Laura when she was going to get her hair cut. And Laura was nervous because Emily's famous. And she didn't recognize that. And um, it was her first time of recognizing when you're a coach and you're out in the social atmosphere and people see you and they respect you and they honor you and they see you for the first time, that is fame. And Laura was very, very nervous meeting you for the first time. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I was like, I don't understand. She's like, I'm nervous. Or I don't know if Shelly said it or Laura did, but something about her being nervous. I'm like, why? Like I was literally didn't understand.
Mm-hmm. And how many times did that happen after? Many. I'm going to say many. I'm going to answer for her because she's not going to answer. We just had some people sign up who just listened to the podcast. And the first thing they said when they got on the call, they're just like, oh my gosh, I'm fanboying right now because this is Emily. And that's the influence, Emily, that you have had on people is you have a way of deeply connecting with people that makes them feel invited in and safe and seen. And that is a unique gift that not all of us have. And for you to be in a coaching world where that gift can be given is a beautiful thing. And so I always loved watching it. Sometimes you didn't even notice it, where I would be watching and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so nervous because they're around Emily right now. It's the first time they're seeing Emily. And Emily just like, oh, it's just me, just a little old me. And so that was definitely one of my favorites. I want to ask this question because I'm curious in it. We've, sharing a business, and you guys, I don't know if you've ever shared a business, but man, do you share a lot? You share your emotions, you share your space, you share your finances. You share your frustrations and your anger and your sadness and so many different things in terms of a business. Let me ask you this, because I'm curious, and maybe you'll answer, maybe you won't. Um, what was the most frustrating thing working with me?
Oh man, that's a hard
It is
question.
a hard one. Put it out there. This is our last. This is our last final.
Oh man, I have to think for a moment. Most frustrating thing working with you?
Yeah, you named a lot of things that's all great, but listen, guys, this ain't. You see us on the podcast doing our thing, and we're laughing, and we got those intros that you guys laugh at, but there are some real times with Emily and I where it's the dragon was out for the both of us.
Well, okay. So in our team meetings, we'd be like, hey, this is where we're at. This is where we need to go. And I have a little, I call it like past trauma of receiving that from an old boss in a not so kind way. And so I would immediately like get this trigger response of like resistance and like, I don't want to listen to him. That's not like,
Mm-hmm.
I would put a wall up. And yet I would realize he was right every time. Like, yes, this is what we need to do. And so that was challenging to like literally take ownership and like reflect in the mirror and swallow the jagged pill of like, no, he's right. This is my own trauma, feel like getting responsive right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. I
Mm-hmm.
was doing a lot of self-talk in our team meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because again, these things that we have to recognize and do and be like, oh, I messed up there, or oh, we need to do better here. Like that, I don't know. For some reason, that's been really hard for me in my life
Yeah.
to get feedback in general.
Mm-hmm.
I remember playing soccer and basketball growing up, and like the coaches would be like, dude, Emily, you got to do this. And I'd like cry.
Yes.
And so it's been a struggle my whole life yet. Yeah, I'd say that's the most frustrating. I will add one
Oh,
thing.
come bring it. I mean, we're just letting it out here. I mean, come on.
And it goes along with what I just said, but specifically working with a life coach is challenging of like, okay, he can tell you what's up, and it's like, again, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard, not only in the business, like team meeting setting, but of like, and people, whoever's had you as a coach know this, like you're firm,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it can be a little alarming at first of like, oh, like what? You just said that?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, you settle and you're like, okay, yeah, that's true. But there'd be times where I'm like, oh, stop life coaching me right now. But it was necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I thank you for that. Yet it was challenging.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I've heard in other friendships or relationships. Like it's really interesting, you guys. And then this is a vulnerable piece and part of my life, is that I've always been a giver, a guide, a teacher, a coach throughout my entire life. And it truly is part of who I am, my identity. And there are times when people know that I'm a life coach where I'm asking sincere questions about life as a friend, and I get kickback of stop life coaching me. And that can be a really lonely place at times, because I'm actually just trying to connect with you. I actually need to connect with you. Like, I'm asking these questions because I need help.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a lot of people don't know. Ooh, it's actually making me a little emotional right now thinking about it. Is that there's times where I'm just trying to ask because I actually need to connect.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm asking questions that may seem challenging or deeper, and people can get defensive because they know me as a life coach. And it's almost like being judged, of like, oh, you're a life coach, so you go so deep and so on and so forth. And it's like, I've always been deep. Like that's who I am. And sometimes I'm just looking to connect with somebody.
Yeah, it's interesting because that's not how I see it at all. So it's good to know.
Right.
Because I see it as like a judgment on me sometimes. That's the initial reaction,
Totally.
at least, of like, oh, you're telling me I'm doing this wrong, or like, yeah, that's how it feels initially. So it's definitely different.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I can be judgmental, and there's definitely times I've judged you. let's not make you feel bad about the times that I'm still human and I'm frustrated, and I cast a projection or judgment in due to the fact that I'm not addressing how I'm feeling. And that's the thing with business, guys. It's like there's times where Emily's lifting a little bit more of the load, or I'm lifting a little bit more of the load. And if you carry the load for too long, your ability to respond from the action to the reaction shortens. Mm-hmm. And this is where projections, and we talked about this in the drama triangle, or the trauma triangle that we called it, in which you can fall into this victim mentality due to the fact that you have a really small space. And so when you have that small space, you might do things such as a projection or judgment of like, well, you're not doing this thing, or have you thought about doing this differently in your life? And we definitely got into it at times, you and I, and we had some really deep conversations and some really deep challenges, both professionally and personally, that really stretched us, and in our business partnership and our friendship, but all things that I'm really happy that we went through.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It's an interesting thing, a business partnership, something I was not familiar with at all. And took it day by day, moment by moment of like, is this how it's supposed to be? Like so many unknowns, and it's an interesting thing for sure. Yet I was stretched, but I look at it as a huge learning
Mm-hmm.
experience
Yeah, big time.
in the most positive way. Yeah.
Yeah, big time. I love it. Well, let's address looking back and is there anything you want to ask me? I guess before we move to moving towards the future.
Was there anything to add of what was your favorite thing about the proclivity method or proclivity?
Ooh, my favorite thing about Proclivity was the beginning parts with you and I. It's always I've done a lot of business and I've done business with a lot of different business partners. And the funnest part of any business, particularly when you know the direction, where before when I first started my business, I was like learning. I was more in your shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Where now it's like I can draw out a framework pretty darn quick on how to build a business and be able to go, I know the steps to be able to get to where we're going to get to. And I know our timeline and I know our money and I know all the things to be able to get us to where we're getting. But the beginning part when you're getting to know each other, when you're like, I don't know, should we do this? Or what about that? Or man, we got one sale, and we'd come in, we'd high five each other. Right. And those are my favorite times was, when we had enough time to be able to go on a run with each other, right, and talk about business and like, well, what do you think about this person or that person, or what's going on, what do you think about changing this up or that up. And those times were just so uh, foundational and pure, and it's before the stressors come in of, man, there's more overhead and families are being stretched, and the repetition of being a business owner and finances and so many different pieces and parts. The beginning part, the first year, is always an exciting time, and I really enjoyed that time of building and working together and getting to know each other and learning and so on and so forth. Um, Another exciting time was hiring our first staff, hiring Shelby, and then hiring Gia, and then hiring Austin, and going like, holy crap, like this is real. And then getting to the point where, oh, we're in the top 10% of small businesses in revenue. That was a big moment for us of going like, whether you guys know this or not, a lot of businesses, I mean, scrape by. Even the favorite businesses, restaurants, bars that you go to, you think like, wow, look at their facility and all their, but the overhead and the, employees and everything else, before you know it, the revenue that they're actually taking home is really low. And so to be in an elite club of businesses where it's just like, we're doing this. We got past the 3 year mark, which is a huge mark, moving into the next one, which is the 5 year mark. Just a really, really cool for us to be able to get there. And then one of my favorite memories for me is at the Aces ballpark last year with all of our alumni, and we're all on the grass, and just watching from the first time that we did that, Emily, to the
Mm-hmm.
next year where it's like, oh, we need 22 tickets. And it's like, oh, we need 56 tickets. And watching our alumni grow, and the changes that people have made in their life drastically, dramatically. I mean, you guys were talking about people who got out of abusive relationships. We talk about people who left their careers. We talk about people who finally let go of that trauma or that relationship, healed stuff with their parents from decades of pain. I mean, huge changes, and being able to hear that, and then watching people's journeys 2 years later, people having kids, and where they were just like, my life's never going to change, and then seeing them 2 years later, and it's completely different. That those parts of Run Proclivity is just beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Yeah. Well, I'm I'm sure people are wondering, okay, well, she's moving on. What's happening? Real quick, talk to the listeners, talk to everybody about the decision to move on, and what's your process, and what are you thinking, and what are your hopes for the future?
Mm-hmm. Whew. Well, this has been a very, very tough decision is not what I envisioned from the get go. Of course, I'm not like, oh, I want to build this business and then go on from it after 3 years. So it's been really, really tough.
Yeah.
Proclivity has been a huge passion and joy of mine. I love what we do in our coaching space, and I want to trade that for anything. Yet when we talk about prioritizing ourselves, as we do with our clients, it's what is best for you. What are your values?
Mm-hmm.
And my top two values are my health and my family.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for me to put those first and prioritize some things there, this is the best decision for me to move forward.
Yeah.
Even though I love this,
Mm-hmm.
I love you, I love the community, I love what we do. There's just some things that the juice is not worth the squeeze, if that makes sense. And again, my family and my health come absolutely first. And so some personal matters of like, hey, that's what's got to happen. And in order to do so, you know, I need to part ways from Proclivity for now and see what happens.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
I don't know exactly what the future holds in terms of like me as a coach or my career and that, but I'm going to dedicate my time and energy to my family and my health right now.
Yeah. I know, Emily, for the both of us, we've had some health stuff over the last couple of years, and you guys running a business is super hard. And then throw it in for Emily, um, having a kid at home. I mean, how old was Dansby when
We started?
Yeah.
Not a year, like 6-8 months.
Okay, so it's 6 to 8 months old, and this woman is starting a business and leaving a consistent pay to be able to go, we'll see what happens. And putting that trust in the business was huge. And putting your trust in me, obviously, I've told you many times, is a huge honor. But like we said, it starts wearing. The first year is a lot of fun, and then it's like, oh, this starts getting real. There's more people, there's more responsibilities, there's more revenue, there's more, and it starts wearing on your body, and also on your mental health, and also on your relationships, and as Emily said, and this is, I respect her like crazy for it, is being able to go, I love Proclivity, and this is a huge part, you guys, I love myself, I love my husband, and I love my son. And that is a bold move to be able to make that choice and make that decision. And Emily, I know it wasn't an easy decision to be able to make, and uh, we'll see what the future holds for you. I know for sure it's going to be amazing, and you know, however things roll out, whatever it is, you will always have the support of Proclivity, this community. You know it 1,000% through.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate it. Yeah. From the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Yeah. So moving forward, what does this mean, guys, in terms of moving forward for Proclivity? Proclivity is going to keep going, you guys, in honor of Emily, in honor of all the work that we've done, and the community that we have. We're gonna move forward. Is it going to look a little different? Yeah, most likely. Will we still be making impacts? Of course. Yet there is no replacing Emily. That's an absolute impossible task. She is one of a kind who has impacted hundreds, if not thousands, of lives, and she will continue to do that. Yet we are going to continue to move on because Emily wants us to move on. Emily wants us to continue, and there's always a space and a place for you, my friend, in the future of what we're doing and what we're going through, and we're forever grateful for the foundation that you laid for all of us. So I want to give you a moment to be able to give some gratitudes here, whether it's to certain members or your experiences. What would you like to say to the Proclivity members, to the listeners? the thousands of listeners that we have across the United States, world, really, what would you like to say?
I mean, just a huge thank you for your support. As Joel said, like when someone got nervous to see me, like I never envisioned that. It still feels weird. I don't know what to think about that still. Yeah. I want to thank everyone for their support. Like without this community locally and globally, we wouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank you for whoever has always, like so many people send encouraging words, a gratitude to us for what we do. That has kept us going.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank you for all the all of our clients and members who've stayed with us and just been with us and listened to the podcast. Like you said, it means a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then thank you to our team Gia putting her heart and soul and so much effort into a job that like she wasn't completely prepared for in terms of like she hasn't done these things before. She's put so much hard work into it, and Shelby of totally being a pro and taking over our fitness programming and helping us with organizational things and events and just doing it and being a boss. I've learned a lot from her in terms of like confidence and
Mm-hmm.
and like whoa, like you're off, like you're boss
Right.
and how you handle things. That's I love it. And then Austin, as of most recently, like again, very similar to Gia, of like, hey, yeah, I'll do that. Do whatever you want. I just want to be part of the team. Yeah. And I'm like, to me, I'm like, what? Like you just want to be a part of the team? You'll do whatever. Like I don't take that lightly, and it's a huge honor. And so I thank the team immensely for their support, and they've been so kind in this process that it means so much to me. And then lastly, of course, you, Joel, thank you for your mentorship, your guidance, your continued and unwavering patience and support through all the things. It means the world to me. I've learned so much, of course, through building the business, but from you and your guidance. And so I can't thank you enough for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's been a true honor, Emily, to work alongside you, with you on this project of the Proclivity Method. I've said it many times. I'll say it again. Best business partner I ever had. And if I would to go back, I would pick you 10 out of 10 times. Proclivity literally wouldn't be what it is today without your magic touch. And so I really appreciate you. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Anything you want to say to your family who supported you through this?
I mean, yeah, like, especially my husband of like, ooh, the uncertainty. I go back to that of being like, hey, supportive and not knowing what's going to come each month, financially, emotionally, all the things. I want to thank Casey for that and sticking with me there through the ups and the downs. And then all my other family of like, again, they were even like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, do you want to just like go get a real job? And I'm like, I see what you're saying, but this is my passion. So, but they've been supportive no matter what through it all as well. And so, yeah, thank you to my family of being there for me and just being supportive.
And I want you to imagine that in 6 years from now, little Dansby is being able to listen to this and be able to see his mom as a business owner and somebody who, when he was little, we were taking care of him and running a business. What would be the words that you would say to your son 7 years from now? So 10 years old, what would you say to Dansby?
Oh, man. Well, when you said that, I thought of a moment where this was like the first year we were doing Proclivity, and I was working out of my in-laws' house because they would watch him while I did meetings. And I remember one time he needed to be fed while I was in a meeting, and I was breastfeeding, right? And I was in a meeting breastfeeding him, and Casey's mom took a picture. And at the moment, I was like, oh, man, that's like kind of weird, like whatever. And then now I think back to it, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool, right? That is cool. Mm-hmm. And so I'd want to thank him of like, thank you for letting me do my passion. alongside raising you.
Mm.
There was lots of times of mom guilt. Yet I think he would understand and appreciate I was doing what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank you, Dansby.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe I even left him out. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. Well, Emily, as I was telling you before this started, we're both getting emotional here, guys. If you're not watching us on Spotify or YouTube, we're both crying here. I honor you the most as a mother, knowing how hard it is, knowing the mom guilt, and Dansby is dang lucky to have you. So Dansby, if you're listening, little D, which is now going to be a big D, thank you for being you, bud, and letting your mom do what she loves, and I hope you know how much she loves you and what she's doing now and in the future in the next 7 years. So you got a special mom. You got a real special mom, as we all know.
Thank you.
Of course. Well, I got one last question. And it's a question that we ask all our members.
Oh, I knew you were going to ask this.
When they're graduating the Proclivity method. What's one word to describe your experience with Proclivity?
I wish I could be creative and come up with a new one. Yet we've had so many clients come up with so many great words. And the one that does stick with me is empowering. That's what I truly think. I could say my other thought was like life-changing because it changed how I thought. It changed my confidence. And when you change the way you think and do things, it changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, it's been extremely empowering coming from a place of people pleasing, of lack of confidence, of a ton of uncertainty and indecision.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally transformed me to go, hey, like, no, you can do what you want. You can have the confidence. You have the tools to do whatever you want. And so I have gained so much confidence and shed off a ton of people pleasing, which I didn't think was a good thing back then. And now I see it as a good thing. So totally transformative too. So I'm sorry, I can't pick one, but I will say empowering.
Okay.
If I had to choose.
Yeah. Transformative, life-changing, empowering. Yeah. This was, if anything sums up Emily and I's business partnership, is what you just listened to right there. When I'm like, hey, we need to make a decision on on this one thing. And then there's 16 other things that she brings up. And I'm like, I'm going to bring you back to the one question I asked you 15 minutes ago.
I'm learning. I got back there, right?
You did. And that's the part of what we both have learned. So there it is, you guys. The final farewell to our incredible, amazing coach, Emily. If you want to be able to reach out to her, to give her your love, feel free to reach out, Emily at proclivity.co. Or do you have, you probably don't want to give your personal email out to the world.
The best way you could on Instagram, Emily Rodella.
There you go. That's a smart move. Yeah. That's a smart move. Let's not give out personal information like your social security, where you live. If you want to send flowers, reach out to Emily on social media, be able to show her love. There's a lot of people who love you, and that was shown. I reached out and asked just a few people, and we got 23 pages later, guys, of people who reached out and showed their love to Emily. It's really, really incredible, the impact that she's made, and we'll continue to make this impact, you guys. We're going to continue to move forward. At this point, if you guys have any questions about Proclivity, feel free to reach out to us, proclivity.co, Joel at proclivity.co, Gia at proclivity.co, Austin at proclivity.co, or Shelby at proclivity.co. We're all here to be able to assist and continue to move on. There's going to be some restructuring and moving going on in terms of the business itself, but we are here, guys, and we will continue to provide and continue to grow this community And we're so thankful for what you've done.
Thankful for you for the community. Yeah, it's been a wonderful journey. Thank you.
All right. Well, this is your moment. You get to sign off. I'm going silent.
Best day ever.